Relax, the keyboard is off and the press box is closed, but the mic is just getting warmed up. Welcome to the Hockey Writers Ink, the show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. Join your host, Lance Green, the guardian of the blue paint turned writer, and co-host SteelFlyers, as we bring you all the latest on the Philadelphia Flyers. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hockey Writers Ink, a Philadelphia Flyers-centric podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, look who is sitting in with us today. Holy smokes. It's the voice of the Philadelphia Flyers himself from NBC Sports, Mr. Jim Jackson.
How are you, Steel?
Oh, man. I'm fired up, or more, I should say, flyered up, right?
A lot of people have been fired up. It's interesting because when we last talked before the season, I was having to pump everybody up and get them. And then 2 months later, I'm saying, hold on, relax. You know, they're still rebuilding. So it's been an interesting 3 to 4 months, that's for sure.
Exactly. And that is the one main reason why I wanted to have you on here, Jim, is to just kind of get your mid-season review of how the team has been so far, based off the fact that we talked right at the beginning of the season, like I believe it was either right after training camp or something like that, like right before the beginning of the season we talked. And like you said, we had a lot of things where you were like, yeah, this team is going to be, yeah, this team. And now you're like, okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean, I thought this team, I was pretty confident that this team would be in contention for a playoff spot if a certain bunch of things happened, and health was obviously number one for Sean Couturier. They've had most of that. He's a little banged up, but he's been able to stay in the lineup most of the time. Atkinson's been able to stay in the lineup most of the time. Development from the young players, we've seen that. And then we did know that at that time going into the year, there was the Carter Hart situation, which was kind of out there, and now it's definitely out there. So, but for the first half of the year, at least, all those things were in favor. Hart was with the team and playing. Couturier, Atkinson, the young players, all that. So given that, I was not surprised that they were in playoff contention. I did not expect them to necessarily be in second place.
I mean, me neither.
At that one point. Some of that is the Metropolitan Division is underperforming a little bit too. So you throw all that in there together, and it's they're in contention. They're where I expected them to be, but they've also lost 5 in a row. They have some questions to answer. The Carter Hart situation now has become a real issue, and we'll say that Owen Tippett's been hurt. So there are some things they're going to have to overcome here as they come out of the break.
Exactly, but. You know what, Jim? I think you touched on it very much so there at the very beginning. And that's one of the questions that I wanted to ask you. What do you think you can point to that would be the reason why this team is now so much more fun to watch? I mean, you've talked about all those ifs at the beginning of the season, and then they kind of all, lined up to the point where we got to second place. You know what I mean? But could you maybe point to something that you can think of maybe that is some reasons why this team is very fun to watch now?
Well, they've bought in. Every single player bought into John Tortorella's system. Even guys that he has continued to treat with tough love, like Morgan Frost, has really made some strides. Joel Farabee got benched during a game and came out of that playing maybe the best hockey of his career. But as a team, these players are buying into a system which is predicated upon a lot of work. Now there's, that has gotten them to where they are, but it's also, some people said, a reason why maybe they were running out of gas a little bit because it is such a hard system. I don't buy into that too much. I think that mentally maybe they ran out of gas a little bit there. They had a lot going on there that last week with the Carter Hart situation, with the Owen Tippett injury.
Yeah.
And they also had some guys that are banged up that are still playing that weren't quite as good as they had been because maybe they aren't 100%. So I think that had more to do with it than the team collectively running out of gas. But they did have a schedule from the Christmas break to the All-Star break, 17 games, 31 days, more than one day off only once.
Brutal.
I got sick and could not get better. So I know a lot of the players also dealt with this illness that was just hard to get rid of. So because there was no days like now during the break to just hunker down and get better. You just couldn't do it. So that's led to the losing streak. But what led to the team being fun is they're playing John Tortorella's system, but they're also it's a system. A lot of people say John Tortorella system. That means they're going to be boring. Wrong.
I was just
John
gonna say,
Tortorella
no,
is all
no.
yeah yeah. He's all about transition, and this team is all about transition, leading the NHL in goals off the rush and breakaway goals for much of the season. And you don't do that if you're a team without talent. A lot of people say, "Oh, they don't have the high end talent." Well, if you're leading the league in goals off the rush, you must have some talent because to score off the rush, you have to have some talent. So I do think their talent was also underrated and continues to be. As soon as they lose a game or two in a row, I keep hearing, well, they don't have the high end talent. Owen Tippett is high end talent. Travis Konecny is high end talent. Joel Farabee's becoming high end talent. Sean Couturier is one of the better two-way forwards in the league. I can go
Thank
down.
you.
I mean, there's other players. So there's talent. They don't have a superstar. That might have to wait a couple years. Maybe Matvei Michkov becomes that. But the bottom line is they have a lot of good players, and it collectively added up to a team that was really fun to watch, hard to play against, and put up some good numbers there up until this last stretch of 5 straight without a point.
Exactly, and it's kind of funny that you mentioned Tortorella, and one of the things is the Tortorella impact on this team. I feel is something that maybe a lot of people aren't really talking about. I mean, I now I'm starting to see his name being mentioned with Jack Adams for the consideration for the Jack Adams. You know what I mean? And I keep hearing that, well, if he makes the playoffs, then he'll win the Jack Adams. Well, but why does he have to? You know what I mean? I feel that he's done a lot of things to this team to this point to get them to where they are, being hard practices, hard camps and things of that nature to allow things to progress. Yeah, it tires the players out, but look at how much harder they are to play against now and things of that nature. You know what I mean? So, speaking of the Tortorella impact, and you even touched on it there too about Frost. Frost was kind of gets to sit down with Torts, and now suddenly, whoa, well, we're a different player now.
Well, I wouldn't say he's a different player. He's just a little bit more refined. I mean, people just have to understand there aren't many players who come into the league and dominate right off the. Connor Bedard has a ton of stuff to work on, and he's as talented as any player out there. But he's a long way away from being a complete player. So we forget that. I mean, there's just one Sidney Crosby who came in and he was pretty much great from the day he set foot on. Even Connor McDavid has developed over the last 2 or 3 years his defensive game to where now I think he finally has the wherewithal to win a Stanley Cup because he and Draisaitl are both coming back to back check as hard as they are going forward to score goals. Those things take time. I mean, Connor McDavid's in his ninth year, so these things take time. Morgan Frost is a work in progress for sure. I don't think it was just the meeting. I think that meant a lot to Morgan, though. He sat there, he thought about it. He told me he sat in the room for a while before he actually went in to talk and got the courage up to go in and talk to Torts. But since having that talk, yeah, since having that talk, he's clearly been playing, in my mind, the best hockey of his career, better than late last year. Late last year, he piled up some points, and he did play pretty well. But this year, I see a different intensity to his game in board battles. Listen, he's never going to be a guy who cleans up along the wall or anything like that, but you have to be competitive. You have to at least be competitive in those board battles. He's that now. He seems to be willing to take more chances with his skill. I think that comes from being able to talk to Tortorella, and Tortorella saying, I don't have any problem with that. I want you to try things. He says that about everybody. He said that about Emil Andre at the beginning of the year. He wants them to try things. This whole myth that you can't be a skilled player and play well under John Tortorella has completely been blown out of the water when you see how he's handled Travis Konecny, you see how he's handled Owen Tippett. He wants them to try things, and boy, do they try things. I mean, Travis Konecny does some things, and Torch talks about this where you like, whoa, that might get him in trouble with the coach, but he's given him that leeway because that's Travis Konecny. He is a very talented player, and while he might cost you a goal or two with a play where he's taking a risk, he's going to score you some goals too that way for your team. And he holds that. Torts basically has that with everybody. The one thing Torts says there's no negotiation on is your ability to work back defensively. So you can be fancy and try things. I mean, Joel Farabee even tried a Michigan the other night. You can try whatever you want, but come back hard. You have to be back in position defensively when you can be. You have to be smart defensively. That's a non-negotiable. And it should be because that's how championships eventually are won. But it isn't at the expense of never being creative. It's not being the New Jersey Devils of the mid 90s and going into a trap and just trying to
Right.
win games 2-1. That is
Yeah.
not the story. We've
No.
clearly seen that this year.
Yeah.
So the Flyers can play really good defensive hockey and still score goals. We saw that. They probably still need to add another weapon or two. I would give you that, but to be Stanley Cup contenders. But they are, I think we can all agree, playoff contenders, and that's what I thought they'd be this year. Will they make the playoffs? I don't know. There's a lot of teams in the Metro. It's starting to look more and more like it's going to be 5 teams from the Atlantic and 3 from the Metro.
Something like that.
And if
Yeah.
that's the case, yeah, if that's the case, you've got some teams there in the Devils, in the Penguins, Islanders, Capitals. Those 4 teams are all within range, and they all have games in hand. Especially the Devils, Penguins, and Caps. They have a lot of games in hand. So that lead, which looks pretty secure right now for the Flyers, sitting there in third place, isn't quite as secure as it looks when you look at the games played. So they're going to have to work to make the playoffs. I'm not guaranteeing they will, but I think they'll certainly be playing meaningful games here into March and April. And that's all I expected out of this team. And hopefully they can maybe sneak their way in. I mean,
Yeah.
again, losing Carter changes the dynamic too. I mean, that's a whole nother question now. Can Sam Harrison carry the load? I love Sam Harrison as a goalie, Steel, but I don't know if he can be a number one goalie right now at this
Yeah.
particular
Because
time with the
that's
experience level he's at. We're going to find
yeah.
out, I think.
And that's actually one of my next questions is do you think that Sam Harrison can handle the load? I mean, he's been playing I mean, honestly, I thought he was playing better than Carter Hart for most of the season, I thought. Um Now I can kind of understand why, Carter Hart obviously wasn't all the way engaged, whatever. But uh I am we're very high on Sam Harrison. We like his game. We like what he's been able to do between the pipes. We like his control. He's good as far as being aggressive, and he's got good position. But he's young, and yeah, I'm with you. I don't know if he's going to be able to handle the load. I mean, okay, it's maybe only what 39 games is left or something like that, right?
Less than that, but I think there's 32 games left, but that's still he's already played several in a row, and yeah, he got a break. But those are high intensity games against a lot of the teams you're going to be battling with for the playoff spot.
Exactly.
Um, I saw him last year play very well, but kind of looked like he wore out a little bit toward the end with the Phantoms.
Yeah.
So I would be concerned about that. Will the Flyers have enough confidence to go with Cal Peterson or Felix Sandstrom once in a while? Whoever ends up, backing up. I don't know. Can they just run with Saracen? I don't think so. You got to have him get some breaks. The schedule is going to demand that the other guys play a little bit at some point, but I think they need to get those other guys in there once in a while too. So we
Yeah.
shall see. And Carter, by the way, was fine. His last game was not great. It's possible then he had already found out that he was, what was going to happen. But to that point, he was solid. Don't
Oh
by
no, I
any
wasn't.
means
No,
say
no,
that
no.
the Flyers goaltending up until maybe the last week or two, and
Has
I
been
don't blame
stellar.
Harrison in any of the losses he had. He had no chance on almost all the goals. There were
Agreed.
deflections, there were weird goals.
Agreed.
But as far as Carter, he was solid as a rock pretty much. So they had great goaltending. That was a big part of why they were where they were.
Agreed.
Will they continue to get that? That's a big
Big
question
ask.
mark going into the second
Yeah,
half.
that's a big ask. No, I wasn't trying to take anything away from the fact that the tandem was working out really nicely, as far as that's concerned. But it seemed like,
You weren't, but I heard a lot of other people who in fact, some of the questioning, the line of questioning for Danny Briere at his press conference about Carter was, "You think this was impacting his play?" Almost making it sound like he wasn't playing well. Well, up until his last game, he was playing really well.
pretty
I
well,
mean,
yeah.
he was solid. I can count through mid-January. I can count on one hand the times the Flyers were out goaltended in games, and
Yeah.
that's saying a lot. So
Okay.
I don't think that there was. this hanging over Carter affected his play too much because I thought he played well. I thought Sam might have been a tad better over the last month and a half or so. Certainly Carter was better in the beginning, and Sam had a couple of rough outings early, but then Sam came on and was maybe just a touch better, but not much. They were both pretty good, and it was a really good tandem. They're not going to have that tandem. It doesn't look like now. So we got to see how they respond to that. Whether somebody else steps up to take some of the load off, or whether it's all Sam. And if it's all Sam, that's a heavy load for a rookie.
So now that we've approached or broached the goalie subject, you have a new partner in the booth now,
I do.
and
Yes.
and your new partner in the booth now is a colorful man, shall we say? He is a
That's
goalie after all.
He's a goalie. Yeah, he is a goalie. Yeah. He's still a goalie. He
Yeah,
just played the other night.
I know, right? Right. See, Lance is still a goalie too. He plays too, still, right? So
Yeah.
tell me, Jim. Now, we've both had an opportunity now to work very closely with goalie. What is your take on working with a goalie now?
Well, I
What's it
love
been like
working
to
with a
work with
goalie.
Boosh?
Yeah, for the first time in my career working with a goalie on a regular basis. I've worked with Kevin Weeks and a couple of others on a game here, a game there
Right,
basis,
right,
but
right,
to
right.
have a goalie as a consistent partner has been great. I'm learning a lot of things, even at my advanced age, learning some great things about the game, and I really. He's also very good at what he does, which makes it easy to learn from him. So I think it's been great. I've been able to broach areas of the game that I haven't been with other partners because he's a goalie. And the good thing about Bush is even though he is a goalie, he also understands playing as a forward and playing defense. He's just a guy who knows the game. So it's not like because he's a goalie, he's limited in other areas. He is not. And also what I love about Bush is he's very opinionated. And we have some great off-air battles
I
when we don't
bet.
agree.
I
But
bet.
but they're all yeah, but it's great. I just love talking hockey with him. And then on the air, I think he's just outstanding. So working with a goalie, I could come up with a lot of comments to say, yeah, a goalie, they're a little crazy, but
Well,
but
they
it
are.
really has been great. And it's also great working with Scotty Hartnell, who has when he fills in for Bush has some very interesting insight on things,
We'll
and
say that.
he's such a great guy. So I can't, again, as it's been my entire career here, I can't lose.
Exactly, exactly. But no, I just thought it was kind of ironic that now we've both shared that wonderful joy of working with a goaltender, and I will say this that Lance is very articulate, and he's very precise about things, and he is just as opinionated as Bush is. So, yeah, so but
He's always when he's on the show with me here, he's so reserved. I don't see that side of him, but maybe I mean occasionally he'll come out with a relatively hot take, but normally he's pretty reserved. And you just told me he's a correction. I didn't know what he did for a living, so he's now it kind of makes sense because he's got that presence about him.
exactly. But being as a
Plus he
goaltender.
has to keep you in line, which isn't easy. So
I mean, and not to mention, so that's a tall enough task in and of itself. So
I turned it back on you, Steel. Sorry.
that's all right. It's all good. I know I'm the one at fault. I'm the one that brought him into all this. I'm the one that exposed him to all this, and now look at him. You know what I mean, right? So okay. Well, I tell you what, man. There's one thing that you said this past season that I absolutely love, and I've focused in on, and every week I try to mention the power kill.
Oh yeah. Howard Kill's been a real thing,
But
and that
I
goes
love
back
the
to Travis
coined
Konecny
words.
too.
I love the coined words power
Yeah,
kill.
that's used in the league.
Oh, it
We've
is?
used some other ones like my Tippett turbocharge I like, but the power kill is that's kind of a used phrase now. It's not me. I didn't coin that one,
All right.
but it fits because they are always looking to attack when they're on the kill. Travis Konecny, that may be the best move of so many that John Tortorella's made in his 2 years as head coach, putting Travis Konecny on the penalty kill because I think it helped the rest of his game, and he's dynamic as a penalty killer. So They hit a little bit of a rough patch there toward the end. They faced some of the best power plays in the league and back to back to back to back night, and they put them on the power play way too much with some bad penalties. But it is a definite strength of the team, second in the league, and with all those shorthanded goals, so that's something they can lean on here in the second half.
Okay, we've talked about some of the really good things. Let's talk about something that's really horrible, and that's the other side of the power kill, and that's the power play. I have seen some improvements where they did score a power play goal there. What 5 or 6 games in a row there, or something like that. But still scraping the bottom of the barrel here as far as percentage points and things of that nature. Can you give me any insight onto? Is there any improvement coming? Is there? I mean,
It's already here. I mean, you mentioned it. It wasn't just 5 straight. I think they had power play goals in like 8 of their last 11. They were operating at close to 30% over a 10-game stretch. Uh, they were so badly, though, it takes a long time to get those percentages for the season up. So when you see them down there, I think they're 30th at the break. That really weighs on you. But when you see over a 10-game stretch, they're almost 30%, then that shows you maybe it's getting better. Drysdale's going to help. They definitely needed help at the top, and he's going to give them help there. They still don't have that gunner. I mean, getting Cam Atkinson back in gear has really helped as well. That's probably a big reason why the power play suddenly is starting to score. They have other weapons down there that can
yeah,
score. But Drysdale's going to help. I mean, it's not rocket science when it comes down to you got to get somebody at the point who can get the puck through. Flyers really haven't had that for a long time. They had it for 4 games. Ryan Ellis. He could get it through, but he played 4 games
four
with the
games.
team. Now they got Drysdale. He can get it through, believe me. And it's not always getting it. In fact, it's rarely getting it through with power. It's getting it through with movement, with knowing where the seam is. Oftentimes it's a wrist shot. So I think he's going to be able to do that. I think he might be able to teach Cam York a thing or two about doing that. And Cam York's not that bad at it either. I think he's got some potential there. And then it's about the guys down low converting. You got to get to those dirty areas. Just because you're up a man does not mean you can take it easy going after retrievals. You have to go back and get the puck and start over again. That's a big, big key to any great power play. They got way better at that toward the last stretch here leading
Yeah,
into the break. So
yeah,
we saw some definite signs of progress there, Steele. But I mean, Drysdale, if he's healthy and stays healthy, to me would be the biggest reason why I think the power play can really improve. It's not going to be top of the league, but I think they're going to be at least middle of the pack power
yeah,
play. And if you
yeah.
put that together with your penalty kill, your special teams as a whole will be a positive.
Exactly, and I agree with every single thing you said there. So I'm taking it on a whole. Then you like the whole Drysdale move with
Well,
bringing
I
him
don't
in.
like it in that I'm just still amazed that it came to what it came to. I think the Flyers did the best with it. They got themselves a really good player at a prime position, right-handed shooting defenseman, outside of maybe goaltender. I don't know if there's a more important player anymore in terms of the position, the way the NHL game is played. Maybe 1C, which Cutter Gauthier was maybe going to be eventually, but definitely right-handed shooting defensemen. They are highly prized, highly craved in the NHL now. So, and they got a second round pick with that. So,
Yep.
and Drysdale's still so young. So they did the best they could with it, which is very well. But I'm mystified as to how a kid can say, as he puts the jersey on draft day, I was made to wear this uniform, and less than a year later say I won't play for that team. And he won't say anything to anybody, so we don't know why yet. He said it wasn't John Tortorella. He said it wasn't anything Kevin Hayes said to him. I believe him. So what was it? What's the big secret? Tell us so we can move
Yeah.
past this. I think we have moved past this to some degree, but everybody's going to wonder. And the reason I've been here for 30 years, Steele. I've seen players come and go, and one thing I hear from almost every single one of them after they've gone is it's a great place to play. And I'm not talking about guys just from the Eric Lindros era
Oh
or
no.
just from the Claude Drew era. I'm talking about guys now. Owen Tippett really wants to stay here. Joel Farabee signed long term, really wanted to stay here. Sean Couturier, when he signed his extension, I texted with him. He said, "I'm so happy I'm here, hopefully for the rest of my career." This is a great place to play. What could possibly have turned this kid in less than a year to from I'm born to wear this jersey to I won't wear that jersey? I mean, you can't go from one direction further to the other. What was it? I mean, we need to know. I think we need to know. Does he have to tell us? Is he bound to tell us? No, of course. Freedom of speech, freedom of not saying whatever. But you would think because he's getting allegedly all of this hate and all, via the social
Yeah.
media and all that, which is
Yeah.
totally unjustified as far as death threats. Clearly, none of that is warranted. It's awful if it happened, and I assume it did. But I mean, some of that would be less, I would think, intense if he gave a reason that everybody could say, well, okay, I kind of see his point, or all right, I don't agree with him, but at least I know why now. Right now, it's this big mystery as to
Yeah.
why. And
Yeah.
then on top of that, he handled it poorly, or I should say his agent handled it poorly. You can't not talk to the team. At least tell them why you are not going to play for them. At least give them a chance.
Answer the phone.
New management, all new people coming in, give them the chance to say what their goal is. And if you've watched Keith Jones, Danny Briere, Dan Hilferty, John Tortorella, if you watch them talk about where this franchise is going, it seems like it's going to a pretty good place. The fans seem to be buying into it. The attendance is up, the interest is up. So why isn't what didn't catch with this kid? I'm still, you know, criticize me for not getting past it or whatever, but I'm still mystified by it. I'm past it in that I love Jamie Drysdale as a player. He's a great kid, and the Flyers have got a great player who's a little bit older, so it might have actually pushed the rebuild into acceleration a little bit. But I mean, he's older than Cutter, is what I'm saying. He's still young,
Yeah.
clearly,
Yeah.
just
He's
about
still
turned
what,
22.
21.
Yeah, he's just going to turn 22. But I mean, he's so talented at a prime at a position they needed help in, really. So yeah, they did what they could. I completely disagree with Craig Button and some of these people who've said the Flyers threw Cutter Gauthier under the bus. What were they supposed to do? Come out and trade the fifth overall pick, who was supposed to be one of the hubs of their rebuild, and not tell the fans what happened? I mean, just to protect the kid? They protected him for a year when he was saying this stuff to him and wouldn't talk to them. And somehow, and I have no idea how, and full marks to not only the Flyers but all these teams that knew that this didn't get out.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it didn't get out. I knew some stuff, but I didn't. I mean, it did not get out. Um, I'm shocked in today's day and age with social media and all the leaks and all that they were able to keep this under wraps as they did, and they did, and that really protected Cutter from even more vitriol all these months. And it did obviously from the Flyers' perspective still give them a chance to sign him if he changed his mind, which he never did.
Right.
But to have John LeClaire and Patrick Sharp willing to talk to you and you don't even talk to him, to have Danny Briere and Keith Jones fly all the way out to Sweden at the World Juniors and not even give them the decency to talk to them, that's poor. There's to me, there's no excuse for that. For him to make the decision not to play here, totally his right. He has that right. But the way it was handled, I don't think was done well from his
I'm with
standpoint. And
you.
I think
Yeah. Yeah.
he
Yeah.
must have been getting some bad advice from his agent or whatever. To me, it just wasn't handled well. And that's why this situation became so contentious. And so everyone has an opinion about it. So, like you said, they've got Jamie Drysdale. They can't worry about it. It's done.
It's already over.
He's going
Yeah.
to come in here someday as an Anaheim Duck. That will be interesting. But it's really about what they did with it. And they got themselves what they feel is a 1D right-handed shot, power play quarterback. That's pretty darn good. Plus a second round pick.
I
So
mean,
pretty good.
yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at here is the fact that I really like, even though the Flyers got handed a raw deal with this whole Cutter Gauthier thing, um, I have some speculations. I have some things as far as information, but well, none of that matters. The fact of the matter is that the kid's not playing for the Flyers anymore. He did what he did, and like I said, or I agree with what you said, Jim. I'm very impressed with how this administration for the Flyers handled everything, how they were able to keep this under wraps, and kudos to the rest of the league
Yeah.
for keeping this under wraps so that this could be done in a very it was done very well. I think as far as how Danny Briere handled it, how he addressed the whole situation with this, I thought it was done very well. Okay, and it
I
was
don't think
quite
he threw
impressive.
Cutter under the bus. I'll tell you that. I mean, Craig Button, who I respect his opinion, said use that term. The Flyers threw him under the bus, or to me, it's like what? How? You can't come out and make that trade and not explain why you're making the trade. He was your first pick, the fifth overall pick. We've been talking about him and Mitchkov as the two hubs of the rebuild. You're going to actually trade him and say, well, we think this is a good hockey trade, which it is a pretty
Yeah,
good hockey trade.
yeah,
You can say that, but
yeah.
no, they have to explain why they made the deal. Teams don't trade guys they get with the fifth overall pick without there being some kind of extenuating circumstance. I mean, before he's even played for them.
I mean,
So
exactly.
they had to explain it.
Something, yeah, But I mean, it is what it is, though, But like I said, I'm very grateful for how the Flyers were able to handle the situation. I'm very grateful for the acquisition of Drysdale because Lance and I both feel he's been a great shot in the arm for this team, and as you've said, definitely a position of need for this team all day long. And so, if you want to get a player like that and get that kind of capability from that kind of a young player that'll be here for hopefully for a period of time, because I believe his contract is up after this season.
Mm, I'd have to check that. I don't believe so,
No,
but
okay. I can't I
yeah, I
can't
think he
remember.
signed this year. I think he's almost a holdout this year, and he signed a deal along with Zegras. But
Okay, I wasn't sure
yeah,
about that. I wasn't sure about that, but either way you slice it, I think
it's a
getting him
short-term deal though. So I mean, eventually they're going to have to re-sign him,
right.
at a pretty high ticket if he's as good as we think he is. But you expect that you get a premium player, as they did with Owen Tippett. You give him money, and that's the way it works. You have to figure out a way to make it all work under the cap. But hopefully, the Flyers are to the point in 3 or 4 years where they have all this talent that they've got to figure out ways to get them all under the cap.
You
That
know,
means they're good.
right? And the last thing I want to ask you about is how do you feel about the Owen Tippett extension?
I mean, it's I think a case in point of a player who wanted security. He got it, and a team that wanted a potentially all-star level player who was playing at an all-star level when he got hurt. For less than all-star salary per year. So I think it's something that could be good for both sides. And both sides are very happy with it. So that's where we go. And then when you throw in the salary cap increase that's expected next year and then years
Yeah.
beyond, you could be getting Owen Tippett, who to me can be very much a first line player for almost high third line money as the cap continues to go up. So this could be a contract that really looks great for the Flyers down the road. But Owen knows that, and he's a very wealthy man now. So it's not like he's in a bad situation. He's set for life, and his next generation's set too. So it's a deal I think both sides are happy with.
I really like this signing. I feel it's a very team friendly deal because you're not overpaying for somebody. You're not overpaying for what your perception of his ceiling is. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of how I feel that some players were paid
Yeah.
in the past. What their perception of their ceiling was, they were paid on that basis. But I believe that Owen Tippett was paid exactly the perfect amount of money. He was offered a great length of time on that deal, and that keeps him in Philadelphia long into his prime and past. Do you know what I mean? And so,
Yeah, but not too far past and into his year 33 years. So, it's not one of these deals where you're giving a contract and you have to be paying him when he's 39 years old.
right.
It's a great contract. If someone offered me that money, still, I would say it's perfect too. Yes, I would. I would take that
I
in a
mean, yeah,
heartbeat.
what
But,
what what is this game check like? 250 some $1,000 for a game check or something like
yeah,
six
yeah. So
point
he's
six
doing
million
really
dollars a
well.
year?
But your point is well taken, and he's potentially an all-star. There are those who think he's potentially an elite player. So, and he's certainly shown some signs of that. There's always risk though. He's got to stay healthy, and they signed the
Banged up
contract.
now,
He's
yep.
injured. He plays a high tempo, pretty physical brand of hockey that can lead to injuries. So there's always some kind of risk. It's not like the Flyers are giving this guy chump change. They're giving him good, solid money for a long time. So they're expecting production for him from a long time as well.
And as long as he continues to do what he's doing right now, I'll be happy with that all day long. He can be.
I think you're gonna see better from him.
Oh
I
yeah,
think this guy is really scratching the surface. He's just so fast, so big, so creative. I mean, if anything, he needs to work on maybe the defensive side of his game a little bit, but
yeah,
not too much because he's a guy you want taken off going the other way with all that speed. So
right.
he's a tremendous. I mean, that trade, Chuck Fletcher deserves credit. They got a first and Owen Tippett for what 2 months of Claude Giroux. So I mean that was a great trade for the Flyers.
I mean, it's really starting to come good now. You know what I mean? Especially with the Owen Tippett. Um,
Having said that, G's been great. He's still playing great hockey, but it's not for the Panthers. So
and right.
that became just a ripoff for the Flyers. They won. That was a home run for Chuck Fletcher, that trade for sure.
One of the few. Anyway, we're not going to go into that. But what I would like to ask you though, Jim, is um, can you tell me what you've been doing for Alex's lemonade stand? You still been involved with that and still doing things with that?
Yeah, we that right to my heart with that one because we do our Flyers press pass. I think we're doing 8 of them this year. Last year
Nice.
we did 6. The Flyers uh, wanted to increase it. They're just so great. They do. Tori Kimberly handles the game by game of it. She takes the family around. She does a tremendous job. She's a superstar. But the entire Flyers organization is just helped so much with this. And we basically get a family that has been affected by pediatric cancer, and we give them a night at the arena. The child rides the Zamboni, gets to
I
meet
know.
Gritty, comes up, spends time with us in the booth,
I
listens in on the
know.
broadcast. Yeah, they see everything. They get to sometimes meet some players who are scratched, and it's just a great and to see the smiles. This last one we had, Eliana was the smile on her face. I think the Flyers might have lost that game, but I was smiling at the end of the night because that's just so much more important than hockey wins and losses when you can try to help these families in any way you can, take their minds off their struggles. In her case, she's beaten what she had at least for now, and she
Nice.
continues to fight, of course. It's just a great program. Alex's Lemonade uh, Stand and Foundation. They've raised. They just set another record last year in money raised for these families. It goes into both research and into taking care of the families and it's over $300 million. And this from a girl's idea, a little girl who was stricken with cancer, who wanted to open her own lemonade stand, not to raise money for her treatment, but to raise money for other cancer
Yeah.
patients. And so here we are, 23 or 4 years later, and it's raised over $300 million. So a great thing, and I was honored to be asked to go on the board this year and their advisory board, and so honored to do that. So we continue with that. Thanks to the Flyers. Thanks to Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation because that program is going very well. And thanks for
Awesome.
asking.
Yes, that's great, man, because I always love to hear about those great stories. My mom also passed from ovarian cancer. So I'm
Sorry to
very,
hear that.
very involved in, the hockey fights cancer and things
Yes.
of that nature, So stick taps to what you're doing there, Jim. Very much appreciate all that hard work that you're doing there for those great folks there. So I appreciate that. Why don't you tell us about your school there a little bit, Jim? I know
You
you.
call it a school. I don't have a building or anything like that,
All
but
right, it's not a
yeah,
brick and mortar school. You're not going to get a cap and
yeah.
gown or anything like
No, it's
that. But
it's my broadcast coaching program, which still goes ahead full steam. Even during this season, although it's I got to tell you, the 17 games in 31 days, I was having trouble fitting anything, and I also got so sick that
uh,
the respiratory infection was with me
you
almost the entire month. It
you
like
could
went
tell you
away,
were a
came
little.
back, went away, came back. I still am not 100% over it. So that ate into it, but still doing during the summer, full bore. JimJacksonBroadcasting.com. Just go to the coaching icon there, and it's three 1 hour, usually more than 1 hour, kind of like our interviews, Zooms that we talk about all factors in broadcasting, finding your niche, some of the fundamentals of it. I review clips if you have them, and it's for ages really 12 to infinity. I've had a 59-year-old, I've had a 12-year-old as students, and it's great because people all have their dreams at different stages of their life of to get into sports broadcasting, whether it be play-by-play or being an analyst or a sports talk show host or even a podcaster. And as I love trying to help people get to those goals, so continuing with that for sure, as I can during the season, and then in full bore during the summer.
During the off season. Yep. Awesome. That's great. Uh, if you all don't know, I was an ex student, or actually, I'm a continuing student. I'm a forever student.
Well, we all are. We all are. It's actually a baseball manager once told me, when you stop learning, you're done.
Yep.
So
We're not done
we're
learning.
all learning. Yeah, we're all learning about life, and
That's
we're all
right.
learning about. I'm learning about this business because it's ever changing. The business continues to change. Streaming has brought in different things. Obviously, social media has brought in all kinds of different options. The podcasting, the YouTube channels. There's all kinds of exciting things out there. There's all kinds of things that maybe aren't so exciting, but
True.
it's changing all the time,
Yep.
and so we all have to adjust. But to talk to these, some of them are kids, some of them are older people. It's just great, the enthusiasm that they have for it, and I try to convey my enthusiasm for it. I mean, I'm living a dream. You've heard the story. I mean, from the time I was as young as I can remember, I wanted to do this, and I get to do it for a living and have been for 40 years, and here in Philadelphia for now over 30 years, and it's just I live a dream. So I like to get that to these people. You can have a dream when you're a kid. It can be way out there, because it certainly was for me,
Yep.
and you can still achieve it.
Yep.
It can happen. And I hope they leave our Zooms with that feeling. And then the really gratifying part about this, Steel, is that most of my students, almost all of them, have come back for recurring sessions or what have you, and we continue to have
We do.
relationships. There's a couple that I've lost touch with. But not many, and that means a lot to me, because that means that obviously they must have found it worthwhile, and that it did something for them, and I hope to continue to help them along.
Uh, Jim, I have found exactly what you said. You helped me to realize my dream of sitting here doing this. And another dream of mine was to be able to have a conversation with you, because you were somebody that I had always admired and had always, looked at from afar and said, man, I really wish I could do some of the things that this guy's doing. I really like your style, and I really appreciate how you do things. And that was the main reason why I went through your courses and everything else like that. And man, I got to tell you, it's really helped. It's really been able to lock down my skills. And I mean, I still learn every day. I still, take your advice. I can hear your advice in my head every single time I ask a question.
Hammering away,
You
yes.
right? Okay? So, but
Don't go too long with those questions, Steele. Come on, don't go too long with those questions.
okay. See,
Don't
that's what
answer
I
your
hear.
question with a question.
That's
Yeah.
that's see, that's what I hear, right? Okay. But uh, I'm living the dream now. I get to talk to you. You get to be on stuff that I'm doing because I'm doing it right. You know what I mean? And I believe that one of the reasons why I'm doing it right is because of your guidance and your advice, and a lot of things that I learned from going through your school helped me to get to the point where I'm at right now. So thank you very much for what you did for
I'm
me,
glad to
Jim.
hear that.
Really
And
appreciate
you
that. Yep.
you were you were quite the honor student there.
Well, I try. They all say I have a face for radio, you know?
No, that's not true. You have the beard going. You're ready. You're ready. You're well
I'm
coiffed. Look at you. So
ready to rock. Ready to rock.
ready
Jim,
to rock.
thank you very much for doing this. Really
My
appreciate this.
pleasure.
Folks, we're gonna send Jim off with the Hockey Writers Ink salute. Really appreciate you being here. Go check out Jim's school at jimsbroadcastingschool.com. Also check out Alex's
It's
Lemonade Stand.
JimJacksonBroadcasting.com.
Jim
So you
Jackson.
you're good until you gave the wrong address for my website.
Well, it's right on the scroll. Okay, I got
That
the
is.
link in
That's
the
cool.
scroll right, so we're good.
All right. See, I don't see your scroll, so
Okay, well, trust me,
if
it's
I'd
right
known
on the
that, yeah.
scroll. Go over to Jim Jackson's Broadcasting School and check it out. Sign up for some classes. You'll be glad you did. You get to learn from the best. And also be sure to check out Alex's Lemonade Stand and donate it any way you
Absolutely.
can,
That's on the website as well. So
and do whatever you can as far as that's concerned. Jim, thank you very much. Really appreciate you being in on this here and putting up with me for another hour or so.
no, this is fun. I think we got it in under an hour. This may be a world record for us.
I
So
was just gonna say we're doing good. We're doing good. So thanks
always
everybody
great
for
talking to you, Still.
checking us out. We'll catch you
Say
all
hi
on
to
the
that other
next.
goalie, by the way.
Yeah, see. Thank you all for checking us out. We'll catch you all on the next episode of the Hockey Writers Ink. Thanks everyone.